striving the correct balance between the syllabus and the crisp content which he offers. He has a long career in teaching and has helped students to understand the mental aspects of students. So today's topic of discussion is how to cope up with the mental stress and depression as the student. I would like to request Sir to enlighten our viewers that they have joined on the topic so by. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Romy. First of all, it's a pleasure to be in this prestigious that you have created. And it's only 3 years old, but I can already see the leaps and bounds progress that it is making every year.
Thank you so
And
much.
I think I couldn't get a better day than today. Today is World Teachers Day. Uh, in across the world, Teachers Day is on 5th of October. In India, we celebrate, of course, one
Yeah.
month earlier. So first of all, I would like to wish everyone a very happy World Teachers Day. And I'm a passionate teacher. So today I identify myself as not an entrepreneur, but as a teacher. And
Definitely, sir.
I have had offline and online experience. I started
Hmm.
a very small, very small, in a very small room. I took a leap of faith, left my comfortable job just to become a teacher. I did not know. It was like a blind alley. It was like a cul-de-sac. I didn't know what was on the other side of it. But that leap of faith has connected me today to millions of students. We are today one of the largest channels in the world with over 8.5 million subscribers. So I've had a very fulfilling career, exactly what I wanted to become. And today it's a great opportunity for me to address a very important issue that is plaguing the young generation today.
Definitely, sir.
And we talk about advancements in the technical sector, technology, we talk about science, we have been on space now, we are everywhere. We are launching satellites, and now we are launching the satellites that can kill the rogue satellites or satellites of other countries. We are launching ASAT test. We are making so much progress, but there is one area where we are constantly lagging behind. I think sometimes the technology has kind of taken a front stage, and
Definitely.
somewhere the biology has taken a backstage. I think the biology has not been able to catch up with the speed of the technology, and I think that is one of the main reasons behind the depression.
Definitely,
I,
sir.
to give you an example, we have thousands of friends today. We have thousands of friends on social
Yeah.
media.
Hmm.
We have thousands of friends on different platforms. We are omnipresent, first of all.
Definitely.
And if we are omnipresent, that means we have to manage so many platforms. We have almost become a superhuman. And in that race, sometimes we think that somewhere we feel empty.
Yeah.
uh, we may have thousands of friends, but if tomorrow we need someone, how many will actually turn up? That is the question.
That's
uh,
very actually.
so I think I'll talk about stress today. I'll talk about depression. I'll talk about my personal experience, how I came out of depression. We all get into depression at
Yeah.
some point in the time, in our lives.
Yes, sir.
um, first I'll tell you that just yesterday we had a UPSC exam, and in the UPSC exam, I am sure you must have performed well. But there is one part of any exam which is stress,
Yeah.
anxiety. So some stress is good. Obviously, it will make you productive. It will keep you on your toes. And otherwise, if you don't have a slight fear, then what incentive do you have to actually excel? So I think
Exactly.
some fear is very, very productive. It is very important. The problem comes when the anxiety takes a precedence, and it becomes a part of our life, so much so that it starts dominating us and calling the shots in our lives.
Hmm.
And So I think it's very similar to like a football player. He takes a penalty in a actually tense match, and
Hmm.
if he actually practices in on a training ground.
Yes,
So
sir.
you can imagine that in a training ground, he will perform his best. He will convert
Best.
those penalties. But in
Hmm.
that pressure cooker situation, when the whole world is watching you, when there's so
Yeah.
much at stake, that time the conversion is all the more difficult. So this example I've given just to show you that how stress can
Stress.
debilitate you, how it can affect your performance, right?
Sir, a very good example given by you. Sir, just a small note. I would just request my audience that while Sir is throwing light upon the topic and we'll go digging deeper into the topic, if you have any questions arising in your mind, you can just put that question in the chat box named questions so that we can take the questions in the latter half of the seminar. Yes, sir. Definitely. We can go ahead now.
Yeah. So I want to first of all stress upon a very important factor to combat depression, which is the concept of micro and macro. Now, this is my own concept. I've written a book recently, in that also I've talked about it. The macros are obviously the big things that affect your life, right? And the micros here are the very small
Small
things
thing.
that you try to do to make up for the macros, but
Yeah.
obviously that never happens. So the same old macros, you must have noticed that in the previous generation, the generation of our parents and grandparents, they were less affluent. They had less opportunities, but they never had these things a
Influence.
lot, like depression and anxiety. Yeah,
Yeah.
we are surrounded by all the things now. We have a house where we have every possible amenity, but we have depression. So what's gone wrong? It's the macros. Now the macros are good food, good sleep, right? These are the macros. So, and if you like I if you download an app on your mobile phone, that app, and there are some apps now which claim that they will make you healthy. Uh, they will tell you good routine, they will tell
Yeah.
you good food to eat, and but will they really help if you have not had a good sleep over
No, not at all.
last night? No.
Not at
Right.
all.
So what we are doing these days is we are too busy accumulating the micros,
Micro.
whereas we have completely forgot the macros. We are getting away from nature every day. We are getting the more you deviate from nature, the you deviate from happiness. There's a very old saying that you deviate from nature, you deviate from happiness. So I think we need to bring more nature into us.
Definitely.
We are living in concrete jungles, and we don't go out. We are inside our homes. We are in the comfort of our homes. We are always engaged with virtual experiences, and these virtual experiences are keeping us alive. Imagine during the lockdown, if there was no internet, what would have happened? I think all hell would have broken loose. Heavens would have fallen if there was no internet during the lockdown. So this just shows our dependency on technology and internet. Try remaining away from internet for a day. Try remaining away from mobile phone for a day. And I think this is the fasting of today. The fasting of old days was you kind of revoke, you abdicate your food habits for a day. You turn away from food. But I think the fasting of today is you stay away from technology for a day. If not a day, start with at least an hour, and then move forward. So this is absolutely needed. We need to bring more nature into our lives, and that can start with first of all paying deep respect to the macros. And even if you are living in a concrete jungle, there is always scope. I've seen people who, for example, have pets, because pet is an animal. It's a nature. Is nature, right? So they talk to their pets, and they are not they don't feel as alone or as lonely. Now, there are two things for introverts and for extroverts. I've been an introvert throughout, so I can understand this thing that you are always among less people. You don't when you're among people, you lose your energy and you want to be alone. So there are two things. One is loneliness. One is solitude. Loneliness is problematic. Solitude gives you pleasure. So try to gradually reduce your friend circle. If your friend circle is small, then in any way you will not compare yourself much. I think today everyone are not much troubled by their own problems. Rather, they are troubled by the happiness of others. People can't see others happy, they compare themselves. And in such a scenario, when you are always comparing yourself, and if you are on social media 24/7, you are living life like you are on a stage 24/7. And when you are on a stage 24/7, you are living a kind of a hurried life, where you are living life just to keep up appearances, just to be someone that is more acceptable in a society. You will never get time to grow up, grow as a person. And I think that is one race that you are losing. Maybe tomorrow, if you become something in life also, these things will not let you become happy. So it's very, very important to keep your friend circle small. Even if you have two friends, but if you can rely on them, if you know that tomorrow if a need arises, then they'll be by my side. I think that is more important than having 1,000 virtual friends, or having millions of followers on Instagram and other social media. So that is one. Another way you can bring nature into your life is connect with the nature. You make an effort. I'm sure there'll be parks in your area, even if you're in urban city. There'll be some parks. Go to the parks. Befriend the trees. sit under the trees, listen to the twittering of the birds. I'm not talking about the Twitter. I'm talking about twittering of the birds. So make sure you listen that. Automatically you will become enchanted. Automatically you will connect with the nature. Go on your roof. Just throw some millets to birds. Give them water. These small things make a huge difference, and these are not very costly things that I'm saying. I'm not telling you have to spend a lot of money, but these small things, just to see any hungry cow nearby you, prepare a chapati for that cow on your own, from scratch, and you will see the happiness just a small activity can bring in your life. So I think the more you'll bring nature into your life, the less depressed you will be. Um, I also want to talk about since it is Teachers' Day, I want to talk also a little bit about the kind of teachers that we have and how this has evolved over the years. And now I've been both offline teacher and an online teacher, so this has given me a lot of confidence, because when you are in offline, there is there you don't have a cover to hide your incompetence. All you have is a chalk and a marker and a board and students in front of you, and nothing is there to save you. In online, of course, there are a lot of faculties available to you. You can have notes, you can use PowerPoints, you can use whatnot, and so it has given me a lot of confidence. I know the psyche of the students. I used to stand in front of 200 300 students and give lectures, and that has made me really confident. What that has also taught me is that there is a huge difference in between the teachers of yesterday and teachers of today. The teachers of yesteryears, they were they always felt offended when you question their authority. I think fear was their weapon. I think the teachers of today, they are much more friendly. You can talk to them, you can speak to them, you can even fight with them. Although there is a flip side to it also. When fear was there, then there used to be some sort of character development also taking place. And now we are in a time where what we become completely depends on our own volition. So, and there is this human psychology that even the amoral things that a person does, he justifies that or rationalizes that. So I think there's a pros and cons of both. But insofar as I'm concerned personally, even after this webinar is over, I am ready to take your questions. I'll give my email to the society members, and if you face any problem anytime, you can approach me like a friend.
Definitely, sir.
In insofar as stress, I'll also highlight one thing. If you take stress, see, the thing is, you will always be busy. You can even spend a day. You can sit in the morning until night. You can take stress, and you will feel like you have done something, or the day you'll just pass the day like that. In this time and age, when the time passes so fast, you can spend the entire day just by thinking about things, and then you will complain later on that others are stopping us from being successful. See, a lot of people complain. They say that now there are a lot of people, and that is why there is so much competition, and that is what preventing us moving forward. Just imagine this: you're sitting in front of a you're sitting on your study table, right? There's a book open in front of you, and you are thinking just God knows what. Now, who is preventing you from being successful? It's your own thoughts. Lord Buddha said once that not even your worst enemy can harm you as much as your own unguarded thoughts. So I think Lord Buddha was absolutely correct. Today, nobody can stop you. It's just your journey against yourself. It's you versus yourself. If you calm your mind, everything is there for you for taking. The world is your oyster. But if you keep on thinking about the world, you kind of, uh, you'll be entangled in that web every time. Then I don't think you are helping yourself in that. So that was about that was a few points about depression and stress. I've also written something in my book. If you'd like to check it out, it's there on Amazon. Yeah. So Rumi, please tell me what I can touch upon next now.
Yes, sir, definitely. It was a really enriching insight of yours into the topic, and we have got backed by really good amount of question. To start with, sir, let us just begin by asking you. We all know that for a focused preparation of UPSC or any sort of competitive exam, isolation is needed to some extent. However, we often have this negative thoughts coming in our head. So, how can we just stop that or limit that those negative thoughts don't come up and we somehow deal with it? How we go about doing that? This is actually the main challenging thing which is being issued by the youth and especially the people who go about preparing for the various competitive exams.
I think isolation is needed for anything in life. if you want to grow as a person, as a professional, name one profession where you can grow just by being surrounded by people every time. I think isolation is a part and parcel of every profession. If you have to excel, obviously you need some solitude. You need some time with yourself so you can focus, you can grow, you can excel. I think keep a small circle. I would still say keep a small circle. It starts with that, because sometimes people, they don't demotivate you directly. They will demotivate you indirectly. Since you mentioned UPSC, I'm saying this because for example, let's say a student is preparing for UPSC, he's putting his all in, right? And he's always surrounded by friends. So the friends, they will not say that you cannot clear UPSC. Nobody talks like that, nobody says like that, but they may indirectly demotivate him. For example, they may come to him and say, today the IAS officer is slapped by an uneducated politician. Now this is not true. You have seen these things in movies, but the person who is preparing will start thinking, oh my god, am I preparing for the wrong thing? And his entire motivation and his excellence will go for a toss. He'll start thinking about whether this is the right path I've taken. The people, they are very smart. They demotivate you not directly these days, but they kind of throw a web in which you will get entangled. So it starts with keeping a small circle. And see, the negative thoughts, again, it's a habit. It's a habit. But then every habit can be done away with just as there is conditioning, there is desensitization also. So slowly, if your circle is small, if you befriend books, I think you will get over it. Let me give you an example. Uh, there was this novel that I read when I was young called Face on the Wall. I'm sure you must have read it too, by Edward Lucas, in which there was this face. There were these crevices in the wall, right? They're very usual. If there is an old wall, obviously it will crack. Now, just imagine if you keep on looking at that wall for, let's say, hours or even an hour, you'll start noticing some pattern in those cracks. Now, those patterns will form a face after a few hours of looking. Then you will start thinking out that face. Now, there is nothing like it. You are just creating your own web, right? You can just think that it's an old wall, crevices are normal, let's let it go. But if you keep on thinking about it, you will start finding a pattern. Then you will notice a face in the wall, first a face on the wall. Then you will start thinking, oh my god, could it be a real person? Could it be a real person? Could it is it scary? What if I am alone in the house and there is a face? What if that person comes out of the wall? The imagination that we have is endless. I'll tell you one difference between intellect and wisdom. These both words are very misunderstood. Intellect is the ability to think, ability to have rationale, right? Wisdom is to know where to stop that intellect. You should be smart, sure. The brain is one of the faculties given to us for thinking, right? But you should also know where to stop thinking. Otherwise, what you will do is you are just not helping yourself. You are just propelling yourself in the opposite direction, and you are making yourself incompetent. You are making yourself impotent, and with your own thoughts. Nobody is your enemy but your own thoughts. So it goes to the same thing that I talked about, Lord Buddha's quote. Yeah.
A really good insight into it. Like, I can agree with the fact that our own negative thoughts and we ourselves can destroy us. So, going to the next question, sometimes students stop sharing their emotions with their parents or friends because they do not want to somehow overburden them during their hard times or any situations when it goes on. So, what would you suggest? Like, is it better to keep these emotions within ourselves, or like we should get someone to just release our emotions and go about talking? According to you, what is the better option one should do, like strive to?
That depends on the kind of person you are. Some people like sharing, some are extroverts, some are introverts, some are ambiverts. So I've been an introvert throughout my life. I've never shared much with my friends, my siblings, or my then girlfriend, now wife, or I never shared much, to be honest. So, but that depends from person to person. If you believe that something inside you needs to be taken out, you need a vent for it. You need a vent for it to take it out. You need a conduit. Then by share by all means. I don't think it's that big an issue. Just don't share things like, for example, you are preparing for UPSC. Don't make a I'll tell you something. There is an old saying in Hindi कि कुछ लक्ष्य इतने बड़े होते हैं कि उनको पाने के प्रयास में मिली हुई विफलता भी महान होती है. So UPSC is which means that some ambitions or some targets are so big that even if you fail while achieving those, or in a quest to achieve those, you will still be respected for it. So one of such ambitions is to become an IAS officer or UPSC, right? So people, they get this tendency where they want everyone to know that they are preparing for UPSC. So by merely telling everyone you are preparing for UPSC will give you respect. But what that will do in the long term is that will put a lot of pressure on you. If you have told to your entire neighborhood you're preparing for UPSC, just imagine your state of mind. I think we should know how much to tell others. How much should we tell to others? We should know about it. There is no point telling things which later trouble you. Of course, once you have become an IAS officer, tell them by all means. It's like this. I have given this example in my book also. There is a cup, right? You are that cup. Now you have read something. Okay, you have gained some knowledge. Let's say those are few drops of water, and you start telling everyone, which means you are trying to pour those drops in others' cups. You think that you have achieved don't know what. Never mistake activity for achievement. You have not achieved anything. What will happen if you have a few drops in the cup and you start giving it to others? What will happen? You will soon go empty. And to give those drops, you will have to go to the other cups, right? Make yourself so able that you are overflowing with water. So the water is reaching others. You won't even have to go to others. So I think that should be our endeavor. Not again, that's a personal choice, but I would say don't disclose much.
Exactly, really, really insightful. Sir, so the third question. Under mental stress, students often become unclear of their future path, and it becomes difficult for them to persist with their career decisions. I mean, like even when they have planned about their future, they become doubtful about their own strategies. Like you said in the early part, that when you go about saying, they become doubtful because people come about saying their own views. So, how do we keep ourselves motivated in order to remain persistent and our goal in future? Like, how can we be persistent in that?
I think first of all, the career that we undertake or the career that we envisage for ourselves, we need to have, we need to do a lot of research for it. That's number one. If you want to become an IAS officer, do research. Talk to the people who have become IAS. Talk to people who are preparing for IAS for a few years. Try to see all the perspectives. And once you have thought about it, then there is no point going back on it. But there are a lot of times when we become something and later we realize after entering there that this was not meant for us. At that time, have the courage to be true to yourself. Sometimes we become something just because others want us to become that, maybe parents, maybe society. But later on, we realize that this was not what I thought I would. And to be honest, when a person is unconditioned, when a person is 5-year-old, 6-year-old, I don't think he wants to be an IAS officer. I think when he's in 11th class, 12th class, when he's been conditioned by people, oh, IAS is this, IAS is that, he starts developing a sense of, well, this is big. I want to become IAS now. I think we should let that child in us be alive every time. I'll give my own example. So I was a doctor, but I just thought that I wasn't meant to be. So I did my MBA after that. I switched professions. I did MBA. And after MBA, I was comfortable in a job, but I realized that this is not for me. And then I came back from Mumbai to Gurugram, my hometown. I started this company, Study IQ. So I'm just saying that I could have thought that time, look, I invested 5 years in my undergrad. I invested 2 years in my postgrad, and I've invested obviously a lot of money, how expensive a top B school MBA is today. So, now let's cling to it. Just because we have given so many years to something doesn't mean we have to then make sure that the remaining life also we have to cling to it. I don't believe in that. I think let's be persistent, but we should also have a clock in mind. Now, what is that clock? So in India, we don't take a leap of faith. We are more a ROI kind of people, return on investment. if we have invested 20 lakh in MBA, then we should get 10 lakh placement. If we have invested 30 lakh here, we should get God knows what. We think very differently. We entrepreneurs, we think differently. But I'm just saying there is something also known as return on time investment, right? You don't want to be in a situation where you start preparing for something when you are 21 and you become that when you are 35. So we should always have this concept also in our mind that there is something known as return on time investment also. It is not merely about return on investment. What is the opportunity cost? I'm sure you must have read about opportunity cost, right?
Yes, sir.
So what is the opportunity cost that we are paying? So when we are preparing for IAS, we should definitely plan. Plan means, okay, I will prepare for 3 years or I will prepare for 4 years. And in my first attempt, I will reach till mains, let's say. That is my target. Let's say, obviously we should try to clear in the first attempt itself. But let's say कि भाई मैं first attempt में यहाँ तक पहुंच गया तो मैं आगे जरूर जाऊंगा. If we have prepared, if we have given it our everything, absolute everything, and we have not been able to clear even prelims in the first attempt, then we should take a step back and think. Now, whether do we need one more attempt? Are we confident in our preparation? So we should always be flexible, but at the same time, we should have a time frame in mind. That is very important. Otherwise, we will just spend our entire youth preparing for it. And later on, we'll have very few choices available to us.
Exactly, sir. You like literally, I could get
There-
that return on time investment concept of yours.
Yeah, and see, okay, there was a time I agree that IS was a very good career, still is. I'm not saying today it's not. All I'm saying is today it's the world of opportunities. Today it's not the same time. We are not living in British era where the people who were in the civil services were treated like kings and the others were like the common people. Today, there are so many opportunities. Ultimately, if you see, if you're preparing for IAS, if you compare the salary of a IAS officer, it is not even close to a B school lying in the bracket of rank 30 to 50, right?
Yeah.
So, and if you see the people who are in IIT IIMs, they are considered the so-called the smartest people in our country. And do they do government jobs? They are all in private companies. So aren't they worried about job security? But they are still doing it. They are still going to IIMs. They are making a good career out of it. So IAS is a good career, but today it is one of the many good careers. There were days earlier on when only government job was the option and when only IAS and all these careers were good. But today there are so many careers in which you can impact so many lives. Today we are impacting millions of lives, and I'm not even close to being an IAS officer. In fact, I've never applied. I've never even filled the form of UPSC exam. But today I'm one of the best known teachers for the UPSC exam out of sheer passion. Right.
Completely get that, sir. So here is a very confused person in our audience, and actually I can relate to the question really a lot. He says that some days we study a lot, and while some days we do not even like feel like touching the book, just we don't wish to. So how can we remain consistent in our studies? How can we have that motivation every day to get up and study the same amount and go about with our plans and what like daily limits we set up? How should we go about with it?
Firstly, you don't want to go against human nature. I think this is human nature. How can you perform at your maximum in every game? Did Sachin score 100 in every game he played in his life? I mean, this is human nature. I don't think anything wrong with that. What you can do is, firstly, there is enough time to study. There is enough time to enjoy. If you make use of your study hours well, I don't think you will ever feel short of the time to enjoy. As I said, if you have planned that you'll study, let's say 5 hours a day, 6 hours a day, and I think 6 hours a day studying, I think it's a very good study schedule, if you ask me. And if you ask most of the students who have cleared UPSC, they'll say the same, that 6 hours of study is more than enough over a period of 1 year. So there are still 24 hours, right? So what is this anxiety for? Okay, if you have studied 6 hours, close the book now, right? Now it's the time to go out and play. Unless, of course, you want to feel that, no, today it's a good day, let me stretch it to 10 hours. What you are doing is you are compromising your energy for tomorrow. You have, like Abraham Lincoln used to say that if I cut the if I'm given the job of cutting a trees for an hour, the 10 minutes I will spend on sharpening my axe. So where is the time for where is the time for releasing that energy? Where is the time for excursion, recreation, extracurricular? Where is the time for that? And if you don't feel like studying on a particular day, then don't enjoy that day. And you can maybe do a bit of revision that day. There are always light things that you can do. You can maybe do revision. You can take a look at some past papers. You can do some MCQs. There are always these activities which do not require you to be at your 100% 100% concentration. Even at 50% concentration, you can do some past papers. You can do some MCQs. You can watch a football match, and side by side you can do some MCQs. It's okay. Just the idea is to plan it well. The idea is to spread it out. The idea is not to push yourself so much, because what you are doing is you are pushing yourself like a spring. Let that energy release a bit.
Exactly. I completely get that. It's not always necessary for us to give our 100%. So
Yeah.
what do you think? What are some of the signs of depression that we see in a student and then that is overlooked? Like the signs of depression which are always overlooked and we don't know actually that we are going through. At times it happens that we don't even know that we are going through this depression phase. So what are the signs and how do we come to know that we are into it? We are trapped, like as you said, you have also been into it and you
Yes.
overcome it. So
Yes.
how you went about, how could you analyze yourself saying that okay, I am into this state, and how, what steps did you take about to come out of that?
Uh, I would say there are a few things which are there. I think the science will also vary from person to person, but I think there are some which are through empirical evidence. They are there in there are a whole lot of people. For example, person will never be happy over a period of time, prolonged. It will be very difficult for the person to be happy or laughing. Person wouldn't even remember a lot of times when was the last time he laughed with all his heart. uh, there's nothing that can give you happiness. The things that used to give you happiness earlier, they don't give you happiness anymore. You always feel lonely. There are societal thoughts. There's this loneliness which is very deep. You keep thinking about the past happy moments. There's the saying that nothing makes you unhappier than the happiness of the past, and this feeling that that moment will not or such moments will not come again in your life. So I think it's a mixture of a lot of things. I think the first step is take professional help. If you are sure you're in depression, take professional help. There are people who always value skills. Okay, don't try to find the solution on your own for everything. There are people who have devoted their lives, who have seen thousands of depression patients. Take professional help. Don't think that the person who goes to a psychologist is mad, or there's this things that if you go to a psychiatrist, you are some psycho or God knows what. Don't think like that. Take professional help. There are medicines available. There are all kinds of help available. There are so many helplines today. Even the government of India has this Kiran helpline, and there are so many helplines which are there, where there are people from the prestigious institutes like Nimhans and AIMS and all of these, the best mental health institutions. There is so much literature available today on internet. There are so many websites which are 24/7 open, where you can just go and talk with random people who are volunteering. So I think there's a lot of help available out there. There's a lot of literature available there out there. There's a lot of videos available out there. Start with that, and never shy away from taking professional help. And meanwhile, keep working on yourself. Okay, you have identified it's not the end of the world. There is a dark phase, but then again the good times will come. So realize that it is only here to stay for a while.
Exactly. Sir, you went about saying that we should take any help. Can you say or suggest some sort of physical activities or exercises that can help a person go forward in this long run and overcome this kind of problem?
There is this old saying that a healthy mind lives in a healthy body.
Yeah.
Although when I was in depression, I never felt like exercising, and I never felt motivated to. But I know for a fact, and it's been maybe 11 years, 12 years. It was maybe around 2006 or 2007. Uh, I definitely used to do pranayam. I used to do a lot of pranayam, a lot of yoga. I used to do Anulom Vilom pranayam. I used to do Brahmari pranayam, which really helped me. Uh, I used to do mantra chanting also. There are a lot of mantras available. There are a lot of, and you don't have to find, the ashrams, or you can just Google it. It's right in front of you. There's so many mantras there which have been tested and tried by people for ages now. There's a Gayatri mantra. There's a Mahamrityunjaya mantra. There are all sorts of mantras available. Do mantra chanting. I think mantra chanting also helped me a lot in that time. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, mantra chanting definitely helps. Sir, so do you think that a poor sleep, like definitely you said in the first part, a poor sleep schedule or unhealthy food practices and habits affect the mind and brain of the students? So what is the, how should we go about changing our sleep cycle? Because in today's scenario, we have adapted this that we remain awake for long hours at night, and we have just forgot our this ethics of getting up in the morning, how our like grandparents used to do. So how we can
Yeah.
inculcate that actually?
I think comparing with what exactly grandparents used to do would be tough, because, like my Nanaji, my maternal grandfather, he used to sleep at 7 p.m. and used to wake up at 3. Now, I don't think today it's even possible. What I mean to say is get good sleep. Now, if you sleep at 2 o'clock in the night and you wake up at 10, you still have an 8 hours of sleep cycle, which is fine, I think. Don't compromise on the sleep, is what I meant. What I meant was, don't be like, I'll sleep only 4 hours. And when you sleep, just sleep. It's the quality of sleep also that matters. Uh, if you sleep, I think there is this thing, like I sleep at around 1 o'clock,
Okay.
right? And I sleep till sometimes 8:30 or 9. That is my usual day for the last maybe few years. So I also don't claim that I am early to bed and early to rise. But then it's not that bad in terms of, I'm not going against the nature that much. If you sleep at 4 o'clock in the morning, I think that's when night starts becoming heavy on your body.
Okay.
That's my personal experience. Experiences may vary. I have seen some of the fittest people having a completely opposite to nature lifestyle. But then they do a lot of gym, they do a lot of workout, they have that sort of lifestyle. So to each his own. But in my experience, don't go against the nature if you feel you cannot make up for it.
Okay, completely agreeable. Sir, there might be a lot of situation wherein the aspirants are not getting the results. Like they put in a lot of hard work, but they're not getting how much amount of results they wish to get. And at that points of time, we just feel lost, and we think of choosing another career options and diving in from one option to another. So how can we go up, like what should we do to actually analyze and self realize ourselves that okay, this is the correct option and I have to stick to this, or should we go for other options when our results are not suitable, like what we feel? So
I think if you absolutely believe that you have given your everything and there is nothing more that you can do, then probably you should think of other options.
okay.
But you should be sure that you have given your best. And this is very important. There was a saint who used to say that असफलता सिर्फ यह सिद्ध करती है कि सफलता का प्रयास पूरे मन से नहीं किया गया. सो अगर आपने पूरे मन से प्रयास किया है तो कुछ ना कुछ वर्कआउट हो जाता है, जनरली मैंने देखा है. लेकिन अगर नहीं भी होता, अगर आप नहीं भी उसमें कर पाते, तो कुछ ना कुछ रास्ता जरूर खुलता है. आई हैव सीन इट माई लाइफ दैट हार्ड वर्क नेवर गोज टू वेस्ट. It is rewarded in maybe not the way you want it, but it is definitely rewarded one day. I put a lot of effort in my life for 11 years studying absolutely anything under the in my library. I used to study things, but they've never gone to waste. They've rewarded me, okay, not in the way I would have wanted, but they will definitely reward you.
Nice.
Opportunities will definitely open. The luck will always favor the brave, always the courageous.
Exactly. Sir, so as we know that the students are in this competitive environment nowadays, but like there are certain situations at times when we start comparing ourselves with others, like as you said in the first half, that yeah, comparing ourselves with others is definitely somehow helps us to gear up ourselves. So do you feel we should compare ourselves with ourselves, like what we were yesterday and today what we are, or we should go about comparing ourselves with the other peer pressure, like peer our peer groups who are planning for the same thing? Like what according to you is better, with ourselves or with others? Because sometimes when we go about comparing ourselves with others, we tend to feel ourselves very low, very inferior. So what, like how should we go about with this problem?
I think first of all, the focus should be only on becoming a better version of yourself each day. That is number one. Are you better today than you were yesterday? That is the first thing that you should ask yourself. And the second thing is, okay, you want to compare, you can compare, but are you comparing the right things? You are comparing your start, your beginning with somebody's middle or somebody's expertise of years. If today there is a beginner and he wants to be as good as some expert, how is that possible? But in comparison there is no end, there is no rational way to compare. Sometimes we go overboard.
Definitely.
So sorry, I don't recommend comparing at all. And it's it's just a complete antidote to happiness, I think.
Definitely, we should compare ourselves with ourselves. So, so the next question: as we all are currently suffering through this whole pandemic situations, locked in like inside our homes, what would you suggest to the young audience in order to not lose their motivations in this period of time? Because being within the four walls, 24/7, we don't feel like moving and we don't feel determined towards our goal. How should we maintain the same motivation and that zeal to come about?
I completely disagree. I think if you are confined in four walls, if I don't think first of all lockdown and motivation are related in any way.
Okay.
I think it's rather forced you to live a lifestyle that in any case you ought to live to be successful. And if you're not liking it, I think you have been found out. It's an opportunity for you now to finally become something. There is an extra incentive. There is an added incentive. So I don't see how lockdown can affect your motivation. No, not at all.
No, like we are in the same scenarios. Like sometimes we wish to go out, but it's not being
Yeah.
done within us, and we feel like packed and we feel suffocated. Like,
I think that phase is gone now. I
yeah.
think we are talking post unlock 5. So I think that phase is long gone now.
So right now the situations are definitely
It's
stable.
it's I don't think it's relevant because you can go anywhere you want now
Yeah.
with certain precautions, with certain self censorship, with certain self discipline. You can go anywhere you want.
Definitely. Sir, for a better focus towards our goals, we have to strive out between our society for sometimes. Like we need to shift ourselves from it. Social distancing with our loved ones. Due to this,
Yeah.
the people might lose the connections and the norms. In fact, some might even find themselves to be inferior with the social parameters, and he or she goes about low in self-esteem. So what should we go about to maintain a strive or for a healthy social distancing while preparing for the exams? Like we should not only just confine ourselves with studies, how can we maintain a balance between it?
There are a lot of extracurricular things that are available now, which were in fact not even available 5-10 years ago.
Okay.
Today you have these high-end clubs. Today you have these. I mean, what is not available today for recreation? Everything is available. Uh, I think social distancing is very easy today.
Yes.
You have so many video apps. You can do video call. You can do audio call. You can. There's so much. So many ways to connect. Now imagine a time. Imagine a time when a student would go to hostel, and there were no mobile phones. There was no video chat. There was no audio chat. There were no mobile phones. Imagine that scenario. Compare it with today. You have everything. So you are not exactly away from anyone. It's just that you are not seeing that person. But then, how often would you see that person anyways? I don't think it's that big a deal that some people make it out to be honest.
Yeah, true. So mental health issues are very common nowadays. It is because people struggle to deal with the difficulties in the 21st century and with all the challenges they have faced in their everyday life. Or it is because, like, is this the reason that the pharma and the insurance business make it it's very easy for them to go about selling about their healthcare or the various appliances or various things which they offer nowadays to improve the mental health conditions or to diagnose it.
Let me first come to the selling part of it. If there is a uh, if there is a nutrient booster you are taking, ask yourself that question: is it a micro or a macro? It's a micro. Will that nutrition or that booster you are taking, will it compensate for your lack of sleep? Will it compensate for your good diet? No. Until and unless macros are in place, no micro can help you.
Sir,
And people do realize it. That is why they are buying these things more and more now, hoping it would make up for that.
sir,
So I think it is not just hard selling; it's buying also, is misbuying also, right? Yeah, please continue.
Sir, you are reflecting on this micro and macro aspect. So, can
Yeah.
you throw light upon it? What exactly is the micro aspect and the macro aspect, which you are saying? Like, what is their field? Because it's a bit the line of difference is thin and it's difficult for comprehension.
All the things that you ought to do to keep yourself healthy are macros.
Okay.
I'll give you two examples. Uh, Good social circle, for example, small, good food, good sleep, exercising. These are the macros in life, right? Now, assuming you don't exercise at all, let's assume. Now you think that you can buy some of these things that they are selling and you can compensate for that. Can you?
No.
No amount of micro is the thing that, for example, are the nutrition supplements, the things that you try to do to compensate for the obvious things that have been time tested is what I refer to as micros,
Okay.
right? So for example, there are these tablets these days that say that they will kill the free radicals in your body. There are these what's that right word, oxidants, and there are antioxidant tablets people are taking now, and they are less healthy than the people of yesteryears, which did not take any of these tablets. Why still they were healthy? Because they focused on good sleep, good exercise. The basics is the macros. You can't do away with basics and replace them with these gimmicks.
Okay.
Maybe they would help you, but little bit. Not unless the macros are in place.
Okay, completely agreeable. So, what advice would you give the teachers about interacting with students who have this mental illness? How can the teachers help the students to and feel actually at ease in a condensed form? What should the teachers do from their end, being a mentor and a guide to all the students whom they teach? You are a teacher. How you go about
Yeah.
helping students?
See, I am an online teacher. I don't interact with students that much, but students do write to me. In fact, I receive like thousands of messages every month, and I realize that it's not possible for me to respond to each and every message. But even if you miss, let's say, 100 messages, you don't know how serious those 100 people were. It's very difficult in a written form of communication to gauge the level of the problem a student is facing. And therefore, just 4 months back, I wrote a book where I have tried to address the most common problems that students face. It was for this purpose. So today, if student message me with any problem, I say that look, I have written the book. In fact, it's available on a lot of forums just for free. Even if you don't want to buy, even it's available for free on a lot of forums. So That is how I try to ameliorate the students. I try to bring them out of their difficult times that they are facing. Other than that, first of all, a teacher should be trained. I think teachers of today should be trained by experts so they can augment the help that they can offer. Teachers should be taught how to identify whether a person is in depression, whether a student is in depression, right?
Yeah.
Because if there are 5 students sitting in a bunch, they're all laughing and smiling, you may think all are so happy, whereas one of those might actually be in depression. But how will the teacher identify? So I think teachers, there should be some teacher training modules or some effort has to be made by the Ministry of HRD in this direction. And they have, to be honest, they have started a Mano Darpan initiative recently, if you have heard about it, where they are trying to address the psychological issues of the students. So they are trying, but I think we need to do more about it.
Exactly. Sir, this mental health, like, do you think the mental illness is portrayed accurately in the media? Like, is it shown too much or not enough? Like, what do you feel that is it portrayed in the form it is actually imbibed in the students?
I think I'm more worried about the manner in which they are covering it, as if they are making a spectacle of it, sensationalizing it. I don't think that is the way. There have to be very significant, very stern discussions on this topic. Very pragmatic approach has to be there, rather than you create a spectacle out of it. What we are witnessing after the death of Sushant Singh Rajput is that they are addressing it in a very, very comical manner. And I don't think media has done anything in this regard. Anything. I don't think if there's any person in depression, I don't think by watching news channels there is anything to take away for him. Rather, he can feel more depressed by the kind of content that they are offering. I don't think TV and media, I don't think it's their job also, to be honest. But what I was expecting at least is to have more empathy with the people who have mental disease, mental health. And in UPSC, I'll tell you something which not people think, many people think about. You must have seen all these headlines about कि रिक्शा वाले का बेटा आईएएस बन गया या ऑटो चलाने वाले का बेटा आईएएस बन गया, गेट कीपर का बेटा आईएएस बन गया. Why these headlines are celebrated? And if there is a student from, let's say, a rich family, if he becomes an IAS, then ठीक है. I mean, he doesn't get the same credit. Why do you think so? Because in our country, we are still fighting hunger. We are still fighting security, health security, social security. You have seen that pyramid in which there is a self-actualization at the top.
That
And which all Maslow's pyramid, I think.
Maslow's pyramid, in which self-esteem
Yeah.
comes at the higher
Yeah.
pyramid.
Now, therefore, what we do, since we are so low in the pyramid right now as a country, what we do is we pay respect to only the tangibles. Which means a rickshawala's son, okay, he may have less resources, right? He may have less resources, that's the only difference. But I'm sure even a rickshawala's son will have books, will have enough. And I have a lot of students. So don't be in that media projection that if it's a rickshawala's son, as if he is not getting even 2 times meal. Right? This year, the person who got rank 1 in UPSC, he was portrayed as Kisan ka beta IAS bana hai. Now here Kisan means poor, which is not the case. He lives in Omex society in Sonipat. He is sufficiently rich, right? But why are we so much bothered about the tangible part of it and not the intangible part of it? Now imagine a rich guy, the very fact that the son of a rich guy wants to become an IAS officer shows how motivated he is for, he's so motivated. Shouldn't that be given the credit? How many sons and daughters of very rich people are so motivated that they'll do something on their own? What about the journey with the intangibles? What about the struggle with the intangibles? Who has ever cared to know whether the son of a rich person was in depression at one point in time? and he has overcome that depression. But no, since he's surrounded by books, since he has so much resources, it's okay. Whereas a rickshawala's son, oh my god, he has done something miraculous which has never seen by the humankind. So I think this sensationalization needs to stop. If we really want to help the people with mental diseases, first we have to change our perception towards the tangibles and the intangibles, and that is very important.
Exactly. Sir, how social media is a catalyst to mental illness, like you reflected upon it, and how to overcome it and use social media like as a helpful end towards the UPSC motivation or preparation. Like, do you feel that the social media should go about taking another aspects, or do you feel that it's not their job, so they should go about just detaching themselves with it?
So there are two aspects of social media. Okay. One is my house is bigger than yours, that aspect. And the second aspect is the connection part, using as a communication medium. And the two are so often, they are clubbed so tightly that even inadvertently a person feels the influence of the social media. Now I'll give you an example. A lot of people these days, they have joined so many WhatsApp groups. They have a group of their school friends, they have a group of their mohalla friends, they have a group of their college friends, they have a group of their inner circle, they have a group of their family members, relatives. They have added all of their friends on their social media and everyone everywhere, right? With that will come a pressure to outdo each other, or if not outdo, at least match the other person. For example, if a person has finished his MBA by the age of 26, let us assume that all the people in his batch were 26 years old, right? Now, it is expected that after 3 years, usually the MBA fees is so high in India that it takes 3 years to just get rid of the loan. So, it is expected that in those 3 years, or third year or fourth year, you will take a car. By the sixth or seventh year, you will take a house. And if you don't put the pictures of these things in adequately spaced out times, people will feel you have not achieved anything. You are a nobody. That will put a pressure on you. Social media is not just about communication. It is a lot psychological. It's a, it never lets your mind be emptied. How will you make space for more things if you're always consumed by what others are doing? Now, in your batch, you may have, let's say, 100 people. All 100 are in your Facebook. Maybe 2 or 3 of them are your friends. Why are you seeing the update of others? Now, imagine 25 years, 30 years back, when if my father used to meet someone from his classroom or from his schoolmate or college mate, he will be like, "Arey bhai, 25 साल बाद मिलो, कहाँ थे इतने time?" Right? Which means 25 साल तक मेरे पिताजी को नहीं पता था कि उनके जो बैच में वो लड़का है जिससे वो आज मिले 25 साल बाद, वो क्या कर रहा है, और वो पता होना जरूरी भी नहीं था. Right? Now fast forward 25 years, we are seeing the updates of everyone. We know what is going on in everyone's life. When everyone is getting married, after marriage, where have they gone for honeymoon? Which places they are visiting? And everybody will try to portray the best part of their lives on social media, which means if you are in depression, you will be in double depression, because not only you are not doing well, compared to someone you are absolutely not doing well. So you know this, you will be in that web, a self-inflicted web. So even on social media, we should keep our circle very small. It's a very double-edged sword that we are dealing with. We don't need so much data to process every day. We are getting so much data to process every day without even wanting it, without even knowing it. Even if we have subscribed to so many pages, we are getting that data which we don't need at all. Then we are seeing comments also. I know people who put updates on their WhatsApp, and then they open the WhatsApp to see who has seen that update. Now, my goodness, what kind of a world are we living in? Sometimes people put updates just to show the other people that this update has to be seen by him. It is meant for a certain person. We are always playing these psychological things on social media. We are portraying some image. We are always spending our, and do you think our energy is not wasted in these things? A lot of our energy goes in these things only. However we are going to be productive in life, however we are going to save our energy for the bigger things.
Exactly, sir. Very rightly put up that it is a very vicious cycle which we once get into. It becomes very difficult for us to actually drag ourselves out from it. So, before proceeding towards
By
the
the way,
last
in
question,
my
yes, sir.
yeah, in my to add to just that, in my entrepreneurial journey, I had completely quit social media for 4 years, and it is only when I thought I've reached at a certain level that I again went on the social media.
That's marvelous, sir. Like, to be honest, it's very difficult to do that in today's time. So just proceeding further towards the last question, I would request the audience that there will be a link circulated in the chat box. You're requested to fill the link with all your necessary credentials and make sure that they are correct, because that will be for attendance and the validification of your certificate. So now the last question, and it is actually a very important question: how one should face failures and tackle it wisely during the UPSC examinations. Because with failure, we drag in a lot of emotional trauma within us. How to go about like minimizing them, or how should we deal with it that we are at our max, like at our best?
In fact, when UPSC results came out this year, I'm talking about 2019 results, one dedicated effort that we took this year is to take the interviews of those who have cleared it in fourth attempt, fifth attempt, sixth attempt, so that you know there is better perspective in this regard. And on our channel, we have uploaded, not just on our channel, you'll see a lot of people who have uploaded videos, who have uploaded interviews, because they have actually been through that. So it would be a good idea for everyone to go through the interviews of these people who have cleared it on fifth attempt, sixth attempt, and it's very easy to find on YouTube, and see how they fought this. My perspective in this would be of a teacher, but I think the better perspective in this would be of an aspirant, because he's actually going through that thing. Because I'll give a general
Yeah, I
perspective,
completely.
because my expertise is not limited to UPSC. We are catering to 120 exams on our channel. So one thing I would say is that make the failure a part of your syllabus. For tough exams, for tough exams, your syllabus should be history, geography, with respect to UPSC, I'm saying. With respect to this, history, geography, science, tech, environment, failure, this, that. So failure is a part of your syllabus. This should be your approach, because until that happens, and failure has to be dissected in the best possible way. There should be a post-mortem of failure. Why failure happened, the cause and effect, where you can improve. Failure teaches us a lot of things. So I think probably a better perspective on this should be with the student, with the aspirants.
Exactly. So your insight into the topic, definitely now I get the good amount of experience which you have is coming out with the amount of kind of suggestions which you're coming up to. Now I would like to request the president of the society to come about giving the vote of thanks. Shiva, over to you.
It was a wonderful session, Gaurav sir. I'm truly a big fan of yours, of your teaching, of course. So, honorable dignitaries, distinguished guests, respected Gaurav sir, and dear participants, on behalf of NISHTA, the Civil Services Society of Hansraj College, and its entire fraternity, and our convener, Mahendra Prajapati sir, I feel immense pleasure to take this opportunity to propose a vote of thanks to our eminent speaker, Gaurav sir, co-founder of Study IQ, to spare his time from his busy schedule to grace this event with his extremely relevant address on how to cope up with stress and anxiety as a student. He rightly talked about stress and gave a overcoming that is very necessary in the challenging time of pandemic. I take this opportunity specifically express my regards and gratitude to our esteemed principal ma'am, Dr. Rama ma'am, for always encouraging us and providing us opportunity to organize such events. I also want to pay thanks to my team for helping in hosting such event, because these events are not performed with overnight preparations. My deep sense of appreciation and thanks to all the participants who chose to live with us and attending the webinar with great enthusiasm and made it a very successful event. Last but not the least, a very big thanks again to our everyone's beloved teacher, Gaurav sir, for taking his time in guiding us, encouraging us, confidencing us, and enlightening us on the very episodic topic. We really hope that you will always keep us motivated. Having a teacher like you is a boon for students as general. Dear participants, please fill the attendance sheet. With this note, I want to inform the closure of this wonderful session. Thank you, Gaurav sir, for joining us. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me here. And it was a pleasure to be able to help a few students. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for joining. It was great listening to you.
Yes, thank you so much, sir. To my audience, we will catch you up tomorrow again with a very ravishing speaker. See you all tomorrow. Till then, goodbye and take care. Thank you so much.
Guys, don't forget to fill the attendance form we have shared in the list in the chat box, and do follow our social media handles for further updates.